Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this tutorial on how to conduct a two-way within group ANOVA analysis. For this particular tutorial, I'm just going to focus on how the analysis is conducted in SPSS and how to also conduct a simple effect analysis if you find an interaction effect in the data set, especially for those who are using SPSS version 27 or earlier. Now, for this data set, I'm using this data where we had two conditions, and for every combination of the conditions, felt a dependent variable is measured. So for here, this is the design. The question was whether supervisor sex and praise type affect employees' felt appreciation. So it's a 2x4 design where the supervisor sex was either male or female, and then the praise type ranged from neutral, acknowledgement, warm praise, and enthusiastic. So because of that, we had 8 conditions per participant. So when a male supervisor does not gives neutral praise, what is the felt appreciation the employee, what's the measure of felt appreciation in the employee? When a female does the same for that same employee, neutral, female, what's the felt appreciation? Male acknowledgement, what's the felt appreciation? So sort of same. So for that, each participant experienced all 8 conditions, and we had 26 participants in general. So what we measured was felt appreciation. Now, to run the analysis, normally, so you would go to analyze. So this is how, now before I start with the analysis, this is how the data is structured. We combine the sex, so we place the sex on the left. So male, when a male gives neutral praise, what is the felt appreciation? When a male gives acknowledgement, what is the felt appreciation? Another way this data could have been structured is if the praise is neutral and is coming from a male, what's the felt appreciation? If the praise type is acknowledgement coming from a male, so if a praise type is neutral coming from a male, what's the level of felt appreciation? If the praise type is neutral coming from a female, what is the felt appreciation? So I'm just going to type how that data would have looked like if we structured it like that. So we would have had something like neutral, and then neutral coming from male, and then let's say neutral coming from, so let me make this male and then make this female. So neutral coming from male, neutral coming from female. Then we could have had acknowledgement coming from males, so male, and then acknowledgement again coming from female. This is another way the data would have been structured. So like that, then we go to warm praise coming from male, warm praise coming from female, and I will explain why this is important in the analysis. Okay, but for now, the conditions, 8 conditions are 1 through 8 here. This is just an average of the male felt appreciation for male and felt appreciation for female. This is also the average for felt appreciation for the 4 other conditions. So neutral, true, enthusiastic. So you see that there are also 4. Now to run the analysis, you go to analyze, you go to general linear model here, then you go to repeated measures. Once you are here, let me reset this real quick. Now this is why I said knowing how the data is structured is very important. If it is the case that it is structured this way, where we have the male being in front, the sex factor being in front, and then the other one being on this side, you look at the levels of the one in front here is what you type first. So we have male and female, which is our sex factor. So that is what we will type first. So sex, and how many levels does it have? 2. Then we add. Then the second factor within subject factor is praise type, which is on the right. So that's what comes after. So you type praise underscore type, and then you put how many levels. We have 4: neutral, true, enthusiastic. So 4 levels you add. Now if we had it like this, where we had neutral male, neutral female, acknowledgement male, acknowledgement female, and we had that repeat for all the 8 conditions, then we would have rather typed what is on the left hand side. What came first is what we would have typed first. So in that case, it would have been praise type that would come first before the sex will follow, because the sex is what is on the right. Okay, now this is how we have structured ours. So this is how we have to type it in. Then we have, and also take note, so I'm going to change this to supervisor sex here, so we know that we are talking about the supervisor sex. So supervisor sex, change, good. Then the measure name, so take note of what the naming you have done here become important when we want to conduct a simple effect analysis. The measure name is what was measured after every combination of the 2 conditions. So as you have seen here, when we combine male with neutral, what is the thing measured here? When we combine male with acknowledgement, what is the thing measured here? Whenever we combine, what we measure is felt appreciation. So you type felt appreciation here. It could be anything depending on your research. Felt appreciation here. Then you go to, once you are done, you click add. So you have this for your within subject factors, and then you have this as your dependent variable, the thing you measure. Then you click define. Once you come here, then you see what I was talking about. So you see we have 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. The 1, 1, 1 in front here is telling you about the arrangement done here. So male, male, male. That tells you that within subject factor. Then the 2, 2, 2 in front is telling you that this is the female, 2, 2, 2, 2. Then the 1, 2, 3, 4 is talking about the other within subject factor, which is the praise type. So neutral, true, enthusiastic. Then you see it repeats again, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the repetition here: neutral, true, enthusiastic. Then that is how it is arranged in this particular box, so this is where you select your measures to the within subject variable. So we have male, true, enthusiastic, female, true, enthusiastic. So you can click on the first one, and then you click on the last one, so female, enthusiastic, praise, like so. Then you click the arrow to send it here. So you see it has filled everything. If you do and there's one still left, meaning you didn't do it well, then first thing you would want to also click on is the plots. When you come to plots, I always advise that you send the factor with the most levels, to the horizontal axis. In this case, that factor will be praise type, because praise type has 4 levels. So you send it to horizontal axis, and then supervisor sex, you place it on separate lines. What this will do, okay, then you click add. What this will do is to help you visualize the interaction effect. So you see when I click the add, it has this asterisk, so praise type, asterisk, supervisor sex. So this will help you visualize the interaction effect. And once you put the one with the highest levels on horizontal axis, the lines become only 2, so it makes it easy for you to visualize. You click continue. Then you click EM means. You wouldn't use post hoc because there is no between subject factor. Post hoc uses between subject factors, which are actual categorical variables that would have been here, but you don't have that. So you use EM means. Now when you come to the EM means, you click on the first factor within subject factor and highlight all the way to the interaction between the two within subject factors. You send it here. Now this is where the difference between SPSS versions 27 and the newer versions, I'm not sure of version 29 if it has this, but if you are using version 31, which I am using here, so this is the same data in version 31, and you go to EM means here, you would see I have compare main effects and I have compare simple main effects. So unfortunately for version 27, which is the same data, but this is version 27, you only have compare main effect. Okay, and we would see the difference between the two in a bit. This is what, when you click on this, it will give you the pairwise comparison for supervisor sex alone, and then pairwise comparison for praise type alone, the mean differences and their associated p-values. But you will not get that for supervisor sex and the interaction effect. You wouldn't get that. Okay, but if you come to the version 31, if you do this and you check off the second box, compare simple main effect, it will do that interaction. It will give you an interaction multiple, so like a multiple comparison or pairwise comparison for the interaction too. So where it separates, it compares it along sex and compares it along praise type, but you wouldn't get that in version 27. But it's still possible in version 27, and we'll see that in a bit. But just that the approach will be different. So you click continue, then you go to options. Once you are in options, you check off your descriptives to get your means and standard deviations. You check off estimates of effect size, so that when you run the analysis and you see the omnibus table, the main ANOVA table, you can get your partial eta square for the three hypothesis. So each hypothesis goes, one hypothesis goes with sex, supervisor sex, one hypothesis goes with praise type, another hypothesis goes for the interaction, whether the interaction will be significant. Keep in mind, this is even why we are doing a two-way, whether the two conditions interact to influence employees, what do we call it, felt appreciation. So in other words, if there's a difference between male and female supervisors when it comes to employees' perceived felt appreciation, is that difference consistent for the different levels of praise type? Okay, so you check off this, then you get the partial eta square for the sex, partial eta square for praise type, and partial eta square for the interaction effect. You wouldn't check off homogeneity test because this is used to assess homogeneity of variance between groups. Right now, you don't have a between group factor, so there's no need to check off that. So you click continue, and then you click OK. So once you click OK, I had already run one of the analysis, but we'll just use this. So you scroll down, you see this gives you the descriptive statistics, which you checked off. And I always advise to try and do the navigation from here, because from the left pane, if yours is small like this, which is mostly the case, just drag it out like this so that you can see all the text over there, because it's easier to navigate. Then if you the multivariate test here, you wouldn't use it because it's mostly used for when you have multiple dependent variables, and you even need the boxes test to decide which one you are reporting. So you skip this and go to the first thing you look at is mutual test of sphericity. Now what you are interested in is the sig values for the mutual test of sphericity. You realize that here supervisor sex has no sig value. That is because the sphericity test applies to only to repeated measures that are more than 2. So you realize that praise type only has 2 levels, so it wouldn't apply. But supervisor sex has only 2 levels, so it wouldn't apply. Praise type has 4. That is why you have the sig value for it and the interaction effect too. See, they are both not significant, so the assumption of sphericity has been met. Then you base on this to decide what you are going to use to determine significance on this table. You see, for each one you have sphericity assumed, greenhouse gaser, and all of this. So since sphericity assumption has been met, you look at sphericity assumed. So for supervisor sex, for sphericity assumed, You see, it is significant. There's a significant effect, which means there's a difference between males and females when it comes to felt appreciation. Then praise type, sphericity is also significant, which tells you that at least one pair in the praise type, maybe warm, neutral differed significantly from enthusiastic, neutral differed significantly from warm. You don't know, just know that there's a difference when it comes to praise type 2, which is significant. What we are really interested in is the interaction, which is this supervisor asterisk praise type. The sphericity assumption is also significant, which is telling you that the differences here, the differences in either this or this is not consistent. So if you take, maybe there's a difference between males and females, the interaction is telling you that it might be that that difference is not consistent across the 4 levels of praise type. Okay, so how then do we go about determining where they are consistent and where they are not consistent? So right now, since there's an interaction effect, you can even pause here and then conduct the simple effect analysis, which is where the difference between versions 27 and 31 comes in. So those who are using versions 31, you can simply click on this one and continue, and then when you run it, the simple effect will be analyzed with your data. Like it does a simple effect for you, so you see where there are consistencies and which pairs are consistent and which pairs are not consistent. But for 27, since you don't have it, here's how you approach it. You use the syntax. And in using the syntax, you go back and you run your analysis. So you go to analyze, you go to general linear model, you go to repeated measures again, like you were doing before. You have all of this set up, so there's no need to click reset. You just click define. You also have all of these set up, and everything here is already set up. But what you do, instead of clicking OK, you click paste. Once you click paste, it opens up the syntax window. If you do not see it, click window and go to designated syntax. I think I had already done it, so let me close this and just rewrite it so that we see it how it comes afresh. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. Repeated measures, define, and paste. So once you do, you see now it has come up. So this is how it will come. Now, once you are here, what you are interested in is the pairwise comparison for the interaction. Right now, this one here is not going to give you, see, it looks like it is here, but it's not going to give you the p-values. This will not give you the p-values for each of the, if you take, let's say, supervisor praise type for across, if you are comparing across praise type, meaning you take neutral and compare male and female, take warm, compare between male and female, you won't get mean differences and p-values but from this line 10. So what you can do to get the mean differences and p-values, which is what we use to determine, which is how we examine the simple effect or where the interaction is, you copy that line, this particular line here. Okay, and to get this line, you should have selected it when you were doing the compare. You went to the EM means. You should have selected the interaction 1, 2, not just the 2 within subject factors. Okay, you should have selected that's what before this will show. So you copy this. So you can do Ctrl+C or you right click and copy. Then what you do is, since you might not know, sometimes you'd have to compare it along the 2, because if you compare it along 1, you might not see the simple where the interaction is coming from, but 1 will be able to show you where the interaction is coming from, and I'll show you that in a bit. So you press enter, then you paste it once, press enter again, paste it again. So now you have 3 of these. Okay, but we are only going to modify 2 of them, so this one and this one, to get us the mean differences and the p-values. So once you are here, what you want to do is type this. So you come back here, you are going to take some cues from here. The cues are, this compare means adjusted LSD. This part is what gives you the mean difference and the associated p-values using the least significance difference, the LSD, which is what you selected when you selected the EM means. You check the compare mean effect. The first thing that came under it was LSD. If you had clicked there and you changed it, this part, which is LSD, would have been something different. So you copy this, and then so you highlight this compare adjusted LSD, copy it and paste it here to the second and the third. So you place it in front of the second, make sure there's a space, so give us one space, paste it, and just leave it like this. Paste the same thing again here, so there must be one space between it and the bracket are closed. Paste this one too. Then place your cursor in front of the compare here, and then copy for supervisor 6. So you copy supervisor 6 from the line, this line. It might not be line 8 for you, depending on what you selected and what you didn't. But just look for this EME's tables and copy the first within subject factor. Come back, place it in front of the first line that you did the compare, paste it. Place your cursor in front of your compare again and copy for praise type like so, and paste it here. There should be no space between the compare and the opening what do we call it, parenthesis. So it's not bracket, parenthesis. There should be no space between the parenthesis and the compare. So like that. Once you are done with this, you are done setting it up, then you click run. Okay, now once you click the run, you will get another set of results which is similar to the first. I mean, same as the first. The only difference is now your estimated marginal means here, see, is broken down, cascades. The interaction effect here, from here, you will have one interaction effect 4, and you see another interaction effect 5. But when you come to the first analysis, which also started from here, general linear model here, this was what we ran before. When you get to the interaction, it ended at 3. So there was no 4 and 5 under it. So that's the only difference between the first analysis and the second. So to determine where the interaction effect here, when you come to the test of within subject effect here, this interaction, to determine where it is coming from, you come to the first pairwise comparison for this first interaction, which is number 4. So you come to pairwise comparison under number 4 here. Click on it. Then you check what is on the left. What is on the left is praise type. So they have split it along praise type. So 1 through 4, which is neutral, warm praise. No, sorry, neutral for 1, acknowledgement for 2, warm praise for 3, and enthusiastic praise for 4. And then for each one, they compare between male and female. So this is male, this is female. Remember, male came first. Then, so you check the sig values for these the comparison, because the assumption is if generally there's a significant difference between males and females, generally, which we saw that was the case, that difference should be consistent, should be the same irrespective of praise type, should be similar irrespective of praise type. But you see that in other words, since there's a significant difference between male and female, we should expect that if they gave neutral praise, that difference should be there. If they gave warm praise, the difference should be there. They gave acknowledgement, it should be there. Warm praise, it should be there. Enthusiastic, it should be there. But when you look at praise type at neutral level between male and female, the mean difference here is not significant. As you can see, it is not significant here. Okay, it's the same thing. It's just that they flipped it around. So you see negative 3 point. However, when you come to warm praise here, you come to acknowledgement, which is to acknowledgement. between male and female, you realize that the difference is now what? Significant. The difference is now what? Significant. Although it's even sort of borderline significant. Okay. When you come to warm praise between male and female, is also still significant. This time the difference is quite huge, right? And is significant. And when you even come to enthusiastic, the difference is much higher. And you would realize that since there is only between acknowledgement and enthusiastic that there are significant differences, then we look at the mean difference. At acknowledgement, males here had a higher felt appreciation than females because the mean difference here is positive. So they subtracted females from it, so that means males had a significantly higher employees rating of felt appreciation was much higher for males at acknowledgement. However, when you come to warm praise, then the thing, it flips. You see, it flips, where females rather had the felt appreciation for females became higher than that of males at warm praise. And then for enthusiastic, females warm felt appreciation even went much higher. So you see that the inconsistency here is, even if not anything, the inconsistency is between neutral and the other forms of praise. It's not, the difference between males and female supervisors is not consistent. Okay, so this is where the interaction is coming from. If you want, you can decide to go and look at the simple effect analysis along sex, splitted along sex. But when you look at this, I have looked at it and you realize that if you are looking at it from here, you will not see where the interaction is coming from, because for here it is consistent. For males, 1 minus 2 is not significant, and it's the same for females. 1 minus 2 not significant. And if you do the comparison, this one is significant, 1 3 is also significant, 1 4 is significant, 1 4 here is also significant. And when you do the pairing, you realize that they all align. So it is from here that the interaction becomes much clearer. So this is how you run the two-way within group ANOVA analysis, and how you can examine the interaction effects for it. Thank you very much for watching.